I'm glad you could join us today. I was thinking we just start off. I mean, the stuff you were telling me when we were chatting over the phone about your journey and how you got into the rep space and how you figured out how to make it work. I think a lot of the people that listen would love to just hear your experience and then how you're helping your network that you have now to help new reps out. It's super fascinating.
Yeah, I'm Adam. I'm from upstate New York. Started in the industry about 4 years ago with a distributor. Ran the branch, went after new business. Found out it was very hard when you're young to make it in the industry because it's an old man's club, I like to say. A lot of people helping each other out or built relationships over 30 years and they haven't retired yet. They're still out there. So I was knocking on doors, making phone calls. And that was right when COVID started to hit. So the industry was changing. And now where people didn't accept crosses, lead times went from 4 weeks to 40 weeks. So now they were. And the easiest one for me was fuses. So there's like couple main players in the fuse game. And I would call and say, hey, do you have a fuse issue? I would love to help you. And I started building up my network that way. You help someone with a fuse. And then the next day you're asking for wire. And then you're quoting everything in the panel. Because you can help them once they actually give you a chance. Did that for about 2 years. And then I ran into where I work now, a manufacturer rep, and they wanted an OEM specialist. So I want to do the same thing, but help out people in the same role I'm in. So young guys, young women, starting out in the industry that are brand new. And it's hard. They're getting a lot of no's. And I was going to be the person like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the person to bring you your first yes. That's how my role started with the manufacturer rep I'm with now.
You talked about when I chatted with you, like just how hard it was to start in this industry, like the challenges you faced, all these things that you wouldn't expect to hit that you did. What were some of those big challenges and what would you say to someone else that's starting new? What do they watch for? Right.
Yeah. So starting new, make sure you track everything you do. If you have a CRM, if you have Salesforce, or whatever it is, make sure you track everything because the first one's going to be awesome. And you want to make sure you know how you got there. So the process, learning the process that works is the toughest. I try to help out, say, hey, you're going to make 100 calls today or whatever your distributor wants you to do. And if you get one person to talk to you and give you an RFQ, you won that day. That's the hardest thing is getting someone just to send you something in this industry because they already have friends. They already have their connections. And you need to know that there's a lot of people out there, you probably don't understand that whatever you do, there's no winning at this account. So when you do get a win, you really got to enjoy it. The tough things that I found out where it doesn't matter if you have a better price, doesn't matter if you have a better product. It's a relationship game in this industry. And if it wasn't, Amazon would be doing it. That's how it works. So knowing that, I like to call it being a hero. So helping every rep out, you got to be someone's hero. You got to go out there. You got to make that relationship. And it's easier to do it for me personally with brand new people starting the industry because I did it. I came in with no connection, started from zero, and now I've built my way up. And as you go, it makes people feel uncomfortable and it only gets harder. But now as a manufacturer rep, I have distributors that tell me I'm not welcome because I'm going out and seeing end users. And that's okay to me because I know one day when they need my help because their partner has retired, I'll be there. I have no hard feelings at all. I'm ready to help.
Yeah, I remember when I started in the rep business in 1997, and it was amazing. I had these ideas. I was going to come set the world on fire. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and then kind of reality hits you in the face. And there's just a lot of old relationships, and sometimes you just got to wait it out. And I told people. I had a guy tell me one time, he goes, I don't know why you're wasting your time coming here. And I finally told him, the guy's name was Lewis. I said, Lewis, look, it's a war of attrition. I'm going to keep coming. And sooner or later, we're going to do business or the next guy's going to do business and I'm going to be ready. And it took him to retire to get it. But then once he retired, then we were right there in line, ready to pounce. And it's tough when you don't know anyone. And I had a kind of a leg up because my dad was in this business. So I at least had a few people that knew him that would give me a little bit of time. And then I had other people who maybe didn't like my dad. And they're like, I'm not talking to this kid. So it's tough. And for you to do that in a short period, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive because it's a tough market. when you're dealing with guys that have worked together for 30, 40 years.
Yeah. And I mean, the biggest thing you got to realize is that when you're young, starting out in this industry, it's not a bad thing for someone to dislike you. That's the biggest thing I take home. When I leave work, I leave it at work because I'm like, okay, here. But sometimes I come home and I'm telling my wife that my daughters are 2, 4, and 6. They don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm like, this guy, I got a lot of years left in my life. I'm telling you, he's going to like me one day. Today's not that day. Time is on my side. And I'm going to help this guy and I'm going to win. And I know it's going to happen. There's a lot of times where I'm leaving places like, I got time on my side. Don't worry about it. And I just try to stay as positive as possible when it comes into these things, because I understand now, like sometimes even when I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this sale 100%, I go in knowing his brother might be working at the distributor that I'm going against. And then I'll try to tell his brother, hey, you should be really selling your brother this. So I get it, but you're not going to be everybody's best friend at first. You got to stay positive and laugh. If you laugh about it and you keep moving, you're always going to have a job in this industry, because there's a lot of people that quit and they go do something else. And when it gets uncomfortable, they go back to what is comfortable. And that's why it's staying as a status quo, the old man's club, helping each other out. But if you keep moving and you keep staying positive, things change. I proved that when I was at my distributor, and I'm proving it now at this manufacturer rep I work for, because we're starting to win things that we didn't win before. And we're starting to have distributors that we never worked with working with us now. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about the toughest customers, how you have that mentality of, okay, I'm buckling this chin strap. I'm hanging around. I'm going to get this guy to like me. He's going to do business with me. And to me, if you've got that mentality like that and you finally break through with those toughest customers, those are the ones that will be your biggest advocate. They will be your biggest supporter once you finally get in. And if you stay positive, like he's talking about, and just have that want to, the tough customer, they build their own wall and keep everybody else out. If you could ever get in and you're helping them solve problems and they trust you, those will be the best customers you have. Now, granted, they may take you a while to get in there, but when you finally do help them out and they realize that you're bringing value, those are the ones that are going to support you no matter what.
And that is true. And sometimes it's out of our hands. If we're talking about Alan Bradley, a Rockwell customer, right? They will never be able to sell some of my lines or might never be able to help you. But there is times where, some of those parts don't line up and they might need a wire or they might need something else that goes in that panel. And if you could figure out how to help that customer and not hurt that customer in that account, that could be very helpful, because you don't need to sell everything you're selling to one customer. Maybe it's just that one thing that you can grow in this account. So I'm starting to learn that too, which is it was tough for me. I wanted to be able to help every account with everything, but it's not possible. So I'm starting to learn now, like maybe I only can help them with one little fuse or one piece of wire. But if I do that as best I can and stay positive and smile for that $15 RFQ every week, I know that they'll probably tell their friends and they probably work at another distributor, and I'll get a chance, because I'm starting to see that happen too.
So would you say, looking back, is it mainly the consistency and just the positive attitude as like a driver of success, or what would you say are your main things that help you succeed and that other reps should try to mirror?
Yeah. So I at first, I would say my problem is that I try to go make people feel uncomfortable. So that's what I had to learn. Like, I wanted to know what the issue was. I wanted to have a talk. I want to know like what they were thinking. No one really wants to do that. Like, they want to make their life easy. So it was like calming myself down and listening to the older guys and the older women, men in the industry, telling me what they did. And then all of a sudden I started picking and choosing and realizing, wow, all my mistakes, I could do this. I was trying different things. They all didn't work, but I didn't have anybody helping me, telling me, don't do this, don't do that. I've already made that mistake. And then as I started winning, I started having more people telling me that. And I listened, and you listen. And then I realized, like, oh, I should be helping these other young guys in that same boat. So it doesn't take them 2 years. It doesn't take them 4 years to get here. And then I'll have a network. And that's like the goal behind it, is like staying positive. Yeah, that's huge. But sometimes you got to take those losses and like really let it set in and then listen for any advice anybody will give you. Yeah, feel the lows so that you can really feel the highs. Now that's the peak and valley I try to stay in.
What do you, did you do this every week, right? Where you're helping train new reps and helping them figure out. So how do those sessions go? What do you typically go over with them? And
Yeah, so we came up with this idea where we would start reaching out to distributors saying, hey, if you have any new hires or inside sales, I would love to come in and do cold calling with them. I'll teach them my ways. So we had a local distributor that just hired a new hire, and they're like, yeah, come on, we'll give you a shot to do it. I went in, I gave them some ideas, didn't give any account names, didn't do any of that. It was more of, here's what I say on the phone. And I make cold calls every day still. So I wake up, I make some cold calls, and then at the end of the night, I make some cold calls too. It just makes me feel like I'm actually working. So I got to hear some no's to if not all good things in my life. But yeah, so I go over that with them. I try to stay positive. And then I also tell them like, hey, here's some of the things that went awful for me in this industry. And I don't want you to think you shouldn't do it, but here's some advice. And I give it to them. And the first time, the VP, the owner, all of them were listening on there. And they had no clue what I was going to come in and say. And then when I left, they were like, we love it. Will you come in and do it again? So now I go in and do that. They told a couple of people. So now I've had 4 distributors that let me come in, help them with cold calling, help them with new hires, just going over it. And we don't charge anything. It's free. So I'm doing it on my own time. One week I did it on a Saturday. And I brought my daughters with me. So they got to draw and stuff like that. So really for me, that's more valuable than actually going out and making a sale, because I know those guys, if they do win and they make it, they're going to be happy. But also when they're having their losses, they contact me. They're like, oh my God, I had the worst day ever. I'm like, it's not good. Tell me more. I want to be in your low right now. Let me hear it. And we go through it. And I'm like, did you learn anything? He's like, nope. I'm like, all right, let's go. We're going to figure out something for the next day. But it feels good to have more than just myself that's young in there. Now I'm starting to see there's some turnover happening. There's more young guys going out there. And there's some young guys that are way better than me. Like they're out there making huge sales. And I'm just happy for them because that's cool. Breaking in the industry and doing it, I know how hard it is. Even if I don't have the best out there, hopefully not the worst, but like I can celebrate your win too.
yeah. And yours was with, remind me, like the first major breakthrough that you had?
Yeah, so my first breakthrough ever in the industry was a immersion fuse sale, which was awesome. The OEM, I still, to this day, that OEM I still work with, I'm trying not to say names, but Stu Davis is a legend. I almost quit. So I'm not positive all the time. I was down. I was just getting no's. I started off making 150 calls, tracking everything, and I had 0 wins the first week. The second week, I was like, I'm going to come in and do 300 calls. Still nothing. I was like, am I selling life insurance out here? What's going on? And then finally, I called this guy like 5 times because he kept answering. No one was answering. He was like, come on in. So I went in. I explained to me, hey, don't worry, it's going to happen. By the time I got back, there was a PO for immersion fuse for $13. And I'm telling you, I've never been so happy in my life. I was just so happy. And to this day, he's definitely not my biggest customer. But I go to my way to do anything for them over there and him, because he doesn't even know probably how much he's helped me. And now how much he gets, because of that, I'm helping other people. Because they just take that one win. I felt like, still to this day, like when I sell one fuse, I get so jacked up. The owner of our company's like, what, why? And I'm like, hey, I just love it. That was sale for 1.5 million. And I'll be like, oh, my sale was way better. Here's what happened. I'll break it down. But it's still exciting for me. But it all started with that one fuse. And if that didn't happen, I would have quit. So I know how important it is.
That was it. That
was it. And I still, when I was talking to that one guy, when I'm talking, I bring that up to this day. Hey, this is why I'm still in the industry.
That's cool. That's cool. Would you recommend people get into the industry? Do you think there's like a certain personality type that you need to have? It takes a lot of kind of getting through a lot of no's. Do you ever get used to that, or I don't know?
Yeah, I would say everybody should get into this industry. It's hidden, right? I feel like this is a hidden industry that should have a lot more talent in it. I'm not the most talented person in other industries. I would have never even been known, right? But in this industry, it's been like a hidden gem, and you can adapt and you can learn. And there's so many different roles. You could be a counter guy that could be the most valuable at a distributor. You could be the person doing the packing slips that knows everything, and you can give advice to an outside guy like, hey, I've seen a lot of these circuit breakers come in, or a lot of these fuses come in, or a lot of this wire. You start pitching that. Being that person to help out could be anywhere in this industry. You could be on the customer service team. That's usually the inside sales team is probably the most important anywhere in this industry, because they're doing all the talking. And if you're able to win them over or win anybody over, there's always a spot. Because if you're nice to people, I found that people like that, especially when you're getting yelled at because you have a late part for 40 weeks and the whole factory's held up. You figure out how to help that person, you're always going to have a job.
Yeah. Takes a lot of creativity, right? Because you're always thinking about how to solve people's problems. What product sets do I have? How do you stay on top of all that information?
Yeah, I think when that comes down to it, is the one thing that I think maybe this industry lacks is the CRMs, the software, where other places, if you're doing payroll, they have everything. Or if you're in the medical field, they have everything. In this industry, the software is behind. And that was like one of your other podcasts I was listening to. You were talking about commissions, right? People don't even know that they're not getting money, but that's also for the OEMs and the distributors. Like, they get rebates. Sometimes those rebates aren't done right. And all of a sudden you just lost out on thousands of dollars, and the factory made more money, right? So it's not only just the people selling, it's also the people buying, because they get rebates and they're just not filling out the paperwork out in 90 days or on time or doing it right. And now they just cost themselves tons of money. And then that trickles back to the customer, and everything gets raised up. So if there's like a software or anything like that, it's probably where the biggest issue is right now in this industry, is how to track things, how to do it correctly, how to make sure you're not wasting time or money. That's probably where this industry is going, I feel, and that's where it needs the most help.
Do you find you spend a lot of time, I don't know, like in spreadsheets or looking for paperwork or whatever, trying to?
So I personally, I have an Excel file. Every time I do a cross, I put it into an Excel file. I've been doing that since day one. So it's my own personal file. And then I put it into CRMs and stuff like that. But I literally have every part. So when someone sends me a part, I put it in the finder of the Excel sheet. If I've already crossed it, I've saved my time, right? But no one else really, whenever I talk to people, they're like, well, that's such a good idea. Like,
Right.
That should be something everybody has.
Right. You had to come up with that. You had to invent that yourself, right?
I share that file with people all the time. They're like, what? You have this? I'm like, yeah, here you go. Like, here. The thing is, there's so much knowledge out there that other people have. They just put it into software or anything like that. We wouldn't have any of these issues that we're at now. But also, because they haven't done that, a young guy like me can get into the industry. And now I'm getting sent all these things daily. Hey, can you help me cross this? Can you help me cross this? This part 70 weeks. So I was able to make a job out of it. But down the road,
you become that first phone call, whether it's internal or external, and that makes you more valuable to the whole process. And having tools like that you can share, that's invaluable. That sells itself. When you start helping people, then man, they're going to help you. They're going to place the orders with you. Even the internal folks that are leaning on you for, hey, let me borrow that tool again. If something comes up, they're going to point you in the right direction. It's making those connections, helping each other out. And if you've got these tools, man, then you're ahead of the game.
And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I went to a place called Classic Automation. All they do is supply old parts, right? So it's so cool. This guy, he gave us a tour, everything like that. It was so cool. And it's just dead parts. So like when parts go obsolete, they find those parts and supply it. And he was explaining this to me. He was like, some people don't know how to do PLCs. Some people don't know how to do this. So when the PLC goes down, if you don't have that old part, they have to spend thousands, or they have to create a whole new machine. So what they do is they find that old part and they put it in and make sure it works. And I realized, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. We went over to all this thing. I leave And already today, they're purchasing and sent me crosses, right? And I've already sent them back because I had it on my file sheet. Like literally the part they needed was right in my Excel sheet, sent it right back. I reached out to a distributor. I gave her the part number, and I'm sure that purchase order will go to her. And I hopefully down the road, she tells of someone, and then that builds a relationship there too.
As a new rep, you mentioned coming in, you went through these learning phases, these challenges. Also, I think you were able to bring, like you're talking about this Excel sheet, some technology to bear on some of these problems, right? To do things in a more efficient way. What are you excited about for the next 5 years, 10 years in the industry? Where are you hoping to go? What are you hoping to see?
Yeah, Jason Latchett, the owner of our company, he knows my goals. My first goal was to come in, help people. And I said within 5 years, I'll be a regional, right? So I'd be a regional at one of these factories. And then 5 years from there, I'll be a national account manager, and then hopefully running one of these factories. That's what I said, right? Now there's so many jobs in this industry that are like, you go to one place, it's totally different than the other place. Really, I feel like my place in this industry is helping people that are younger. And then the next step will probably be helping people that are in the middle of the age, middle age group. And then at the end, it'll be like, how to protect your business while you're going to retirement. I only can do what I could help with at the time. But right now, I'm really focused on just helping other reps inside, outside, make their mark in their company, in this industry. Also hiring. There's friends who are like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And I've had a lot of friends get hired too now. So, try to grow what happens if you're a good person and good things happen. That's probably where I'm at. I get asked to interview at different jobs. That's always fun, but it has to be right for my family. It has to fit into what I want to be. In this industry, there's some people that work really hard, and then there's some people that have really good connections. If you can get to the middle of that, you could be the best parent ever. That's the way I look at it. I'm like, I gotta have some good connections, and I gotta keep working. And then I'll always have time for home. So that's what I'm trying to find, is that perfect work-life balance where I can be the dad to my 3 daughters that I didn't have when I was growing up. Some people are like, I gotta work so hard. Really, I just want to make sure we have enough money to be happy, and that my daughters turned out to be good people. That if I had to answer 100% truth, that's where I'll be in the next 5 years. That same thing. Hopefully my daughters like me as they become teenagers. I've heard from everybody in the industry, oh my God, you better watch out. You got 3 daughters. They love telling me about that. So I'm getting a little nervous.
I can tell you that teenagers, it's interesting. It's fun, but it can be interesting.
Yeah. So that people love giving advice. Once you get out there and you make some good relationships and they're older, they're going to tell you like, oh man, get ready. And most of the time they're right. So I'm trying to get ready.
And how do you maybe do that where you are right now? Like, how do you do good work-life balance? Have you found where you have enough time for your family? You have maybe enough like emotional reserves after work to be dad and all these things. What works have you found?
Yeah. So communication is key in anything that you do, right? So I communicate with my wife. I communicate with my boss. I communicate with my customers. And there could be times where, hey, what's the best time to meet? And they're like 6 a.m. And I'll tell my wife, hey, I'm going to be going on this appointment at 6 a.m. I'm going to have to leave at 5. And then I'll let Jason Latchett, our owner, know. I'll be like, hey, just let you know, I'm leaving at 5. Today, I'm going to be home at 2 p.m. because I got to make sure my wife's good. And we have that open communication. So when you find that, it's hard to leave it, because right now I have so much time with my kids, and I have a good time at work. And when the girls go to bed, we're watching Netflix and I'm answering emails. We have a really good thing going. We just got back into the blacklist because the new season's coming out. I'm answering emails and sending out, hey, do you need help with this? I'm watching my favorite show. So, and my wife's laughing, and I'll tell her like, hey, pause it. Hey, just to let you know, listen to what this guy just told me. And I tell her, we laugh about it, and we turn it back on. So if you like what you do for work and you like your family, that's like the goal. That should be where you want to be at. And if you're not there, ask people how to get there. Because right now we're teaching a pre-Cana class. I've never talked about religion or politics at the job, but we're teaching a pre-Cana class on Saturday, which is when you're getting married in the Catholic Church. And we've been doing this for about 5 years. And the average of the couples still together has gone down every year in America. So like people just being married and it's tough. It's tough these days. And I think that's mostly because of there's no one out there saying, hey, you don't need to make $1 million to be happy. Like you just need to make enough to pay your bills and enjoy your family. And that's the goal. Hey, let's find that happy medium and communicate and get to where it needs to be. And until you find that, you're not going to be able to stay positive. I'll tell you that right now. That positivity that we started talking about in the beginning, it starts at home. And if you're having a bad day at home, it's going to be very hard to help people out there doing their job. So I do talk about that with the new hires. Hey, are you married? Do you have kids or anything like that? Because I like to tell them advice too. Because when it wasn't all like that when I first got married. It's hard work, just like in this industry. And you got to work together. And communication's key. And sometimes hearing no from a customer or from your wife, I got to understand that, hey, let's figure out how we can work together on this. So taking that work-life balance is definitely key.
Yeah, that's so important, right? I think a lot of times, and this podcast is often dedicated to increasing sales, business, all these things, but family is just, if not more important. Having the good relationships with your family and your kids and things is a balance. And we got to do a good job of work so we can pay the bills. But I think oftentimes work can take over. And so that's what matters. And I'll deal with my family later. But I like what you're saying. It should be a balance. They should help each other, right?
Yeah. And that balance, sometimes I'm like, whoa. And if you don't catch it, like there'll be things telling you like, hey, this is way off. Here's a perfect example. Tons of kids my age are working remote. And it's almost, I can play video games or I can do this. When you feel that feeling of, I should be working, that's probably that tipped way too much. They can go the other way too, where if you're working at 9 o'clock at night, 4 days in a row, and your wife hasn't seen you, you need to fix that. For me personally, that happened. I found out how important that was when my mom passed. My mom passed in 2019 of cancer, and it opened up my eyes to like how fast life can come and go. And instantly after that day, I made decisions based off how am I going to help my family be together, my daughters. I'm the only person on my side now. It takes a village. Here we go. Let's get together and get this rolling. And it really helped me because I was like, okay, let's do this and this. So every time I make one decision on one side, I was like, okay, let's try to make a decision on this side too. And then I became really good at keeping that balance and promoting that balance and telling people about the balance. I feel like in my circle, I keep a close network that I trust, and I'm open. I communicate with them too. Because if I'm having issues, I need to talk about it so I can fix them. That's where that is.
Yeah, perspective, right? That perspective is so important.
Yep.
And to keep that in mind, that's really cool. I'm glad you brought that up. That was really good. Well, I know we've kept you over time. Is there anything else just that you would want to share with our listeners that are starting out? Any other big piece of advice, and also how can people reach out to you if they have questions or thoughts? What's the best way to communicate with you?
Yeah, I use LinkedIn a lot. If I'm going into an OEM or anything like that, I always try to connect with the buyer, the engineer, definitely the company. I like to follow that type of stuff. I use it as a phone book. So I keep my contacts on there. I make sure to share new products that come away from my factories, all those type of things. But also it's a way for me to stay up in the industry, especially a younger person starting out. You don't really know a lot going on, but you can follow the factories, you can follow people, you can follow companies, and they'll give you the information to start conversations. Just like this podcast, right? So I saw you on LinkedIn. I watched what you were doing. I was like, oh, I really what you're doing. This is something that I feel good about, right? I would have never known about it if it wasn't for social media. I only have LinkedIn, so I don't have Facebook and Instagram. My wife loves the TikTok, whatever you want to call it. She's always asking me to do dances. But yeah, it's a way to get away, but also you got to be able to turn it off too. And those are the type of things that I would say, if you're starting out, get on LinkedIn, follow companies, learn about the industry from the companies. And then when you see those companies talk about certain things, then you know that it's a hot topic. And that's the way I would go about it. You don't need to, and also on LinkedIn, you can follow anybody in the United States, anybody in the world. So industry, solar power, hydrogen, all those type of things I'm learning about, I would have knew nothing. I would have been just going out there, still saying, hi, can I sell you a fuse? now I've expanded by now I say, hey, can I sell you an enclosure? Those are kind of things that I would definitely say. Get on LinkedIn, learn about your craft, learn who can help you, who can't help you. I want to go out there, try to sell stuff on LinkedIn. People don't want messages and stuff like that. I've never been big on that. People do it. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, sure. Sell me something. I'm like, yeah, here we go. So I get it. But definitely learn your craft, and social media does help that out.
Yeah, and that's how we found you, right?
Well,
I saw some of your posts, we got connected, and here we are on the show. So that's been fun. And anything else, Craig?
No, thank you for your time today.
I'm at lunchtime right now. Craig, you got any advice for me? If you saw a young guy starting out right now, I hear your Southern twang, I'm like, this guy got something for me right now. What is the advice you got for me?
Don't talk like I do, number one. That's number one. No, I'm a believer in just the basics, right? I'm like blocking and tackling. I always bring things to like sports analogies and whatnot, but it's blocking and tackling. I mean, what we do is not rocket science. It's if you've got want to, I'm a believer in want to, that work ethic, like that want to do the right thing. You take that, and then you take somebody who just knows how to treat people and knows how to connect and knows how to be a problem solver, and maybe sometimes looks at things a little bit differently outside the box to try to come up with these solutions. You just put that thing in a pot. That's success right there. It's not rocket science. It's just really, like I said, blocking and tackling. I think it's good that you're using LinkedIn. That's something I'm learning about. We've had a couple podcasts about social media. We've done a really poor job of it at our company. I'm excited about what we're going to be able to do. I think that's huge. And just to your point, man, just don't quit. Just if you keep showing, was it 80% is just showing up. And if you keep showing up, these guys and these girls and these companies, they will find a way to do business with you. You just keep showing up. If you're sitting at home and you're cutting your grass on a Wednesday afternoon and you're not in front of your customers, your competition is. So you got to have that work ethic. But to your point, and this is something that we all struggle with, is balance. That's critical. If you're out of balance one way or the other, then everything has issues at that point. So it's really important to have that balance. I got 3 kids too, and there's times that balance has gotten out of whack, but you got to be constantly aware of it so you can keep it in balance. So I think you come a long ways in a short time. You're doing the right things with the family. So once again, don't talk like I do. And I think you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, that's great advice. Another thing that just what happened right there, I think checking each other, that's what they say, or I played college football and college lacrosse, blocking and tackling, hits home for me, but just asking each other, hey, do you think I'm doing the right thing? Or getting advice, or just asking for advice. So faux pas nowadays. Like, I feel like if people just did that more, like I just got tingles listening to you right there. I felt like you were Nick Saban talking to me or something.
But
I'm ready to go call on some more accounts right now.
No, man. But no, it is important to like when I go to these rep meetings, it's not just about what we're learning about from a product wise. I love the afterwards, we're sitting around with other reps and I'm just picking their brains, because what we do, like you've heard me say this, like what we do works. We've been successful. That doesn't mean it's the only way or the best way. So the more you surround yourself with smart people and you're able to pick their brain and bounce stuff off of, the stronger you become. And that's, to me, that's where you don't let pride get in the way. You always can learn. You always surround yourself with smart people. And then once again, you tap that into the work ethic and all the other things, the consistency, and then it all just happens to work out.
That's the whole point about, and that's why we're doing the show. And we're having people like you on, Adam, and other folks that have different experiences, have different advice. So we're just trying to, I think the rep community, I've been impressed with just how much they want to help each other out. And so our hope is that the show helps disseminate a lot of that experience that everyone has. To your point, Adam, it's hard to come in new and literally know nothing about how the industry works. So but we can all share advice and and help people out, like you're saying.
Yeah. So I quit drinking 2 years ago. So I go to these rep meetings and everybody's drinking. I'm like the DD of all of it.
Hey, you can learn a lot that way.
And I listen and I hear, and as the drinks start flowing, there's more going. So I always say, I've learned a lot. But also, if there's anybody out there that you struggle with drinking or anything like that, even if you're older, you ever want to reach out to me, I can give you some advice on how to quit. For me personally, it was just I wanted to be a better dad. I'll tell you now, waking up with a hangover when you got 2 hours of sleep and the baby's crying, that'll help you with that work-life balance real quick.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I definitely want. I wasn't even going to bring that up, but once you started talking, I was like, geez, I feel like I better mention that because there is a lot of people in this that have demons out there, is what I like to say. And there's people that you can listen and talk to. So if anybody ever has any issues with it, definitely reach out. LinkedIn's a good community. Reps are a good community. We should all just be helping each other out. We don't even need to talk about sales. We can just talk about how we can help each other out.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Adam, we appreciate your time, man. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Okay. Well,
All right.
all right.
Have a blessed day.
Thanks.